The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. Admiral James Porter was drinking his coffee in the United Defense Force headquarters when every screen in the command center suddenly went dark. A moment later, they lit up with strange symbols that no one had ever seen before. "Sir, we're receiving this signal from beyond Mars orbit," reported Lieutenant Amy Wells, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "It's broadcasting on all frequencies." Porter set down his coffee cup and straightened his uniform. After 20 years of waiting, it was finally happening. First contact, but not like in the movies where a single ship appeared over New York or Tokyo. This was different. The symbols on the screen shifted and changed until they formed into English text. The translation was perfect, too perfect. It made Porter's skin crawl. "Attention inhabitants of SLO3. You are now within the boundaries of the Galactic Empire. Prepare to receive our diplomatic vessel. Resistance is unnecessary." Porter picked up the red phone on his desk, the one that connected directly to the World Security Council. "Madam President, it's time. Implementation of Protocol Omega." Within minutes, military bases across Earth hummed to life. But on the surface, everything remained calm. No panic, no chaos, just like they had practiced for years. The Imperial ship arrived 6 hours later. It was massive, nearly 2 miles long, and shaped like a silver arrow. It took up position above the designated meeting point in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, where an emergency platform had been hastily constructed to receive the visitors. Porter stood on the platform alongside other world leaders, watching as a smaller shuttle descended from the massive ship. The wind whipped at their clothes, but no one moved. They had their parts to play. The shuttle's door opened with a hiss, revealing 3 tall figures. The aliens looked almost human, except for their gray skin and slightly larger heads. They wore ornate uniforms covered in medals and insignias. "I am High Commander Strict of the Galactic Empire," the lead figure announced in that same too-perfect English. "We bring you greetings and an opportunity to join the greatest civilization in known space." President Helen Marshall stepped forward, looking appropriately awed and intimidated. "We are honored by your presence, High Commander. Earth welcomes you with open arms." Porter had to admire her acting skills. Every tremor in her voice, every nervous gesture was perfectly calculated to make Earth appear weak and primitive. The High Commander's lips curled into what might have been a smile. "Excellent. Our scans show your world has just achieved basic spaceflight and crude quantum communications. You are at the perfect stage for integration into the Empire. We will guide your development, protect you from threats, and in return, you will provide resources and soldiers for the greater good." "And if we refuse?" President Marshall asked, her voice small and uncertain. "Refusal is not recommended," the High Commander said smoothly. "Those who resist integration face unfortunate consequences. But do not worry. We are not barbarians. You have 48 hours to inform your population and prepare for the integration ceremony." As the aliens returned to their shuttle, Porter exchanged a quick glance with the president. Phase 1 was complete. The Empire had fallen for their act completely. Back in his underground office, the real one, not the decoy above ground, Porter activated the secure quantum network that connected every military installation on and off Earth. The message he sent was simple: begin Operation Porcupine. Deep beneath the lunar surface, automated factories rumbled to life. In underground bases across Earth, soldiers began powering up weapons that the Empire would never expect a primitive civilization to possess. And in the asteroid belt, the hidden fleet shifted in its camouflaged docks, ready to reveal that humanity was far from helpless. The Empire thought they had found an easy target. In 48 hours, they would learn just how wrong they were. Porter smiled as he watched the Imperial ship hover above Earth, completely unaware of the defenses scanning its every weakness. Sometimes, he thought, the best defense was to play dumb. And humanity had gotten very, very good at playing dumb. The year was 2045 when everything changed. Captain Tom Wilson remembered it clearly as he stood in the massive underground hangar, watching engineers prepare Earth's hidden fleet for battle. The memory of that day was burned into his mind forever. He had been a junior radar operator at the time, working the night shift at a small tracking station in Alaska. That's when the first alien transmission was detected, not the polished message from the Empire, but a leaked military communication about conquering primitive worlds. "Captain, the last squadron is ready," reported his second-in-command, breaking him from his memories. Wilson nodded, watching as the sleek black ships powered up their engines. They looked nothing like the clunky rockets the Empire thought Earth possessed. These vessels were smooth, deadly, and packed with technology that had taken decades to develop. In the 30 years since that first intercepted message, Earth had changed completely beneath its carefully maintained primitive surface. The world's governments had done something unprecedented. They had worked together in total secrecy. The underground city beneath his feet was proof of that cooperation. 20 levels deep, it housed thousands of people and contained everything from hydroponic farms to manufacturing plants. There were dozens more like it around the world, all hidden from the Empire's scanning technology. Wilson walked to the command center, his footsteps echoing in the carved rock corridors. The walls were lined with screens showing different parts of Earth's defense network. On one, he could see Project SHIELD powering up, a network of satellites disguised as space junk that could create an energy barrier around the entire planet. "Status report," he called out as he entered the bustling control room. "All systems are green, sir," replied Lieutenant Jack Morris. "The Empire still hasn't detected any of our real technology. Their scans are bouncing off the dummy readings we're feeding them." Wilson allowed himself a small smile. The Empire's arrogance was working in their favor. They were so convinced of their superiority that they hadn't bothered to look deeper than Earth's surface. A new alert flashed on the main screen. The Empire had launched shuttles from their main ship, probably to begin their integration process. Little did they know that every move they made was being watched by sensors far more advanced than they thought possible. "Show me the lunar base," Wilson ordered. The screen shifted to show the dark side of the moon, where Earth's largest shipyard lay hidden. Hundreds of ships were docked there, each one built with technology reverse-engineered from that first intercepted transmission. The sight still amazed him. Humanity's greatest achievement, kept secret from its greatest threat. "Message from Admiral Porter, sir," announced Morris. "Operation Porcupine is entering Phase 2. We're to launch in 15 minutes." Wilson pressed a button on his command chair, opening a channel to all ships in his fleet. "This is Captain Wilson to all crews. For 30 years we've trained for this day. The Empire thinks they're dealing with a primitive species that will roll over and submit. They're about to learn how wrong they are." He watched as his crews took their positions. Each person in the fleet had been chosen carefully, trained in secret facilities, prepared for this exact moment. Their families lived in the underground cities, safe from whatever the Empire might try. "Sir," Morris called out, "Admiral Porter is asking if you want to deliver the warning message to the Empire yourself." Wilson shook his head. "No. Let's stick to the plan. Let them think they're dealing with scared politicians until the last possible moment. When they realize what Earth really is, it'll be too late." The countdown timer on his screen reached 10 minutes. Soon, the Empire would learn that they hadn't found a helpless primitive world to conquer. They had stumbled into a trap 3 decades in the making. Wilson settled into his command chair as the final preparations were made. Humanity had spent 30 years getting ready for this fight. It was time to show the Empire exactly what Earth could do. Major Anna Reed stood silently in the corner of the United Nations chamber, watching the Empire's ambassador deliver his speech. The alien's perfect English echoed through the hall as he listed the benefits of joining the Empire. On the surface, she maintained a nervous expression, just like everyone else in the room. Inside, she was analyzing every word, every gesture. The Empire brings peace through unity, the ambassador declared, spreading his arms wide. Behind him, a hologram showed countless worlds that had already joined their civilization. Your people will have access to medical technology that can extend life by centuries. Your children will be educated in the finest schools across the galaxy. Reed's hand brushed against the device in her pocket. For the past 12 hours, it had been collecting data on everything about the Imperial delegation, from their body temperature to the energy signatures of their technology. What she had discovered would change everything. Of course, the ambassador continued, his tone growing harder. Those who reject Imperial protection often face unfortunate circumstances, pirates, natural disasters, economic collapse. The galaxy is a dangerous place for isolated worlds. President Marshall stood up from her seat, playing her role perfectly. Ambassador, surely you understand our need to consider this carefully. Earth has never faced a decision of this magnitude. The ambassador's smile didn't reach his eyes. With respect, Madam President, your world has no real choice. The Empire's expansion cannot be halted. We would prefer a peaceful integration, but we are prepared for alternatives. Reed silently transmitted her findings to Admiral Porter. The Empire's technology wasn't as advanced as they claimed. At least, not anymore. Their civilization had peaked centuries ago. Now they relied on intimidation and the appearance of superiority to maintain control. We have prepared a simple integration ceremony, the ambassador announced. In 24 hours, Earth's leaders will sign the Treaty of Submission. After that, Imperial administrators will begin the process of upgrading your world to Imperial standards. Reed watched as the world leaders exchanged worried glances. Everything was going according to plan. The Empire was so convinced of their superiority that they hadn't even bothered to scan for underground structures or hidden technology. And what exactly does this integration process involve? Asked the Chinese premier, his voice carefully measured. The ambassador activated another hologram, showing massive Imperial ships landing in major cities. We will establish bases in your population centers. Your military forces will be disbanded and replaced with Imperial peacekeepers. Your industries will be restructured to serve the greater good of the Empire. Reed's device beeped softly. Analysis complete. The Empire's ships used a standardized shield frequency. A single synchronized attack could disable their entire fleet. She sent the data to the hidden lunar base, where Earth's ships were waiting. We will need to discuss this with our people, President Marshall said, standing up. Surely you understand the importance of maintaining order during such a significant change. The ambassador's expression darkened. You have 24 hours, nothing more. Do not test the Empire's patience. As the Imperial delegation left the chamber, Reed transmitted the final signal to all of Earth's hidden bases. In her ear, a tiny communicator crackled to life with Admiral Porter's voice. All forces, prepare for Protocol Omega. The Empire has shown their hand. Reed looked around the chamber at Earth's leaders, who were now dropping their fearful expressions. In their eyes, she saw the same determination that had driven humanity for the past 30 years. The Empire thought they were dealing with a primitive, divided world. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Outside, the massive Imperial ship hung in the sky like a sword over Earth's head. Soon, that sword would discover it was threatening a planet that had spent decades preparing for this very moment. Earth wasn't going to submit. Earth was going to fight. The Imperial ships descended from orbit like angry wasps, their weapons charging. They expected an easy victory, a simple show of force to make Earth submit. Instead, they flew straight into humanity's trap. All stations, execute Protocol Omega, Admiral Porter commanded from his underground command center. Around the world, hidden installations hummed to life. The Empire's sensors suddenly went crazy as thousands of defensive systems revealed themselves at once. In orbit, Project SHIELD activated. What the Empire had dismissed as space junk transformed into an interconnected web of defense satellites. A shimmering energy barrier began forming around Earth, making the Imperial ships pull back in surprise. "Sir, the enemy fleet is regrouping," reported Lieutenant Wells. "They're charging their main weapons." Porter allowed himself a small smile. "Launch the counterattack. Let's show them what Earth can really do." On the dark side of the moon, hidden doors slid open in the lunar surface. Earth's secret fleet emerged, led by Captain Wilson's flagship. The sleek black ships moved in perfect formation, their stealth systems making them nearly invisible until they were right on top of the Imperial fleet. The Empire's commander barely had time to register the threat before Wilson's fleet opened fire. Beams of concentrated energy, reverse-engineered from the Empire's own technology, sliced through their shields like they weren't even there. "Impossible." The Imperial commander's voice boomed across all frequencies. "You're supposed to be primitives. You don't have this technology." "This is Captain Tom Wilson of Earth's Defense Force," Wilson responded calmly. "We've been waiting for you for 30 years. Perhaps you should have scanned more carefully." The Imperial ships tried to regroup, but Earth's fleet was everywhere at once. Major Reed's analysis had been perfect. Their shield frequency was completely vulnerable to Earth's weapons. 3 Imperial cruisers exploded in rapid succession. On the ground, the Empire's landing forces faced their own surprises. What they thought were primitive military bases suddenly sprouted energy weapons. Underground bunkers revealed themselves to be fully equipped defensive fortresses. "Status report," Porter demanded, watching the battle unfold on his screens. "Enemy fleet is down by 40%, Wells reported with barely contained excitement. "No casualties on our side. Project Shield is holding at full strength." In orbit, the Imperial commander was frantically trying to rally his forces. His ships attempted to form a defensive circle, but Earth's fleet was too quick, too coordinated. Each shot from Wilson's ships found its mark with deadly precision. "This is your only warning," Wilson broadcast to the remaining Imperial ships. "Leave Earth's space immediately, or we will be forced to destroy your entire fleet." The Imperial commander's response was predictable. The Empire does not retreat. All ships concentrate fire on their lead vessel. It was exactly what Wilson had been waiting for. As the Imperial ships gathered their energy for a massive combined attack, his fleet split apart in a perfectly choreographed maneuver. The Imperial blast passed harmlessly through empty space. "All ships, execute pattern strike," Wilson ordered. His fleet moved as one, surrounding the Imperial forces in a 3-dimensional web of firepower. The next few minutes were devastating for the Empire. From his command center, Porter watched as the mighty Imperial fleet, the force that was supposed to subjugate Earth, broke apart in panic. Ship after ship jumped to light speed, fleeing from the primitives they had come to conquer. The Imperial commander's final message echoed through the command center. "This isn't over. The Empire will return with a force that will crush your pathetic defenses." Porter exchanged glances with his officers. They all knew this was just the beginning. The Empire would indeed return, probably with an even larger fleet, but Earth would be ready. "Send word to all commands," Porter ordered. "Phase 1 is complete. Begin preparations for Phase 2. The Empire needs to learn that Earth isn't just another primitive world for them to conquer. We're the planet that's going to end their expansion once and for all." Major Anna Reed stood in the captured Imperial shuttle, studying its control panel with intense focus. Around her, teams of engineers were taking apart every piece of technology they could find. The Empire's retreat had left them with a precious gift, actual Imperial equipment to study. "Major, you need to see this," called out Dr. Mike Thompson, one of her top researchers. He was examining what looked like a communication device. "Their quantum network has a massive security flaw. They never expected anyone to be advanced enough to hack it." Reed smiled. The Empire's greatest weakness was their arrogance. They had used the same basic technology for centuries, never expecting primitive worlds to catch up. Now that overconfidence would cost them. In orbit, Captain Wilson's fleet was undergoing rapid upgrades. The knowledge gained from the battle had shown them exactly where they needed to improve. Teams of workers swarmed over the ships, installing new weapons and defensive systems. "How long until the Empire returns?" Wilson asked during the emergency council meeting. The world's leaders had gathered in the underground command center, all pretense of division now abandoned. Admiral Porter pulled up a holographic map of nearby space. "Our long-range sensors show they're gathering a massive fleet, at least 5 times larger than the first attack force. Estimated arrival time, 1 week." "That's all we need," Reed announced, entering the room with her latest findings. "We've cracked their communications network. More importantly, we've found something they don't want anyone to know." She activated her own hologram, showing hundreds of worlds under Imperial control. "These planets aren't happy. The Empire's grip is weaker than they claim. Several worlds are already on the verge of rebellion. They just need a spark." President Marshall leaned forward. "Are you suggesting what I think you are?" "Yes, Madam President," Reed replied. "We shouldn't just defend Earth. We should help free every world under their control." The plan came together quickly. Earth's hidden factories worked at full speed, producing new weapons and ships. But their secret weapon wasn't military technology, it was information. Using the cracked Imperial network, Reed's team sent messages to every oppressed world. They shared Earth's defensive plans, explained how to detect weaknesses in Imperial ships, and most importantly, showed that resistance was possible. "The Empire thinks they're the only ones who can unite worlds," Porter said as he watched the messages go out. "Let's show them what real unity looks like." Responses came flooding back. Underground resistance movements on dozens of worlds pledged their support. Imperial ships began reporting mysterious malfunctions as their own crews sabotaged them. The Empire's perfect image of control was cracking. In lunar orbit, Wilson oversaw the deployment of Earth's newest weapon, microscopic robots that could eat through Imperial shield generators. "Sometimes the smallest things cause the biggest problems," he told his crew with a grin. Reed's team made another breakthrough with captured Imperial technology. They found a way to turn the Empire's own defense systems against them. When the Imperial fleet arrived, they would find their weapons useless. "All preparations are complete," Porter announced to the world leaders. "Every city has been evacuated to the underground shelters. Our fleet is ready. Our allies are in position." President Marshall stood to address the council. "For 30 years, we prepared in secret. Now we fight in the open." The Empire thought they would find an easy conquest. Instead, they found the force that will end their tyranny. Around Earth, billions of people watched and waited in their underground cities. They weren't afraid anymore. The Empire's first attack had proved what humanity had hoped. They could fight back. They could win. In her lab, Reed put the finishing touches on her latest project. The Empire would return with overwhelming force, expecting to find a battered planet trying desperately to defend itself. Instead, they would find something far more dangerous, a world that had learned their weaknesses and wasn't afraid to exploit them. The Imperial fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system like a storm of metal and light. 5,000 ships strong, it was the largest force the Empire had ever assembled. Their weapons could crack planets. Their shields were supposed to be unbreakable. "They're right on schedule," Admiral Porter said calmly, watching them approach on his command screen. "All stations, prepare to execute Operation Thunderstorm." The Empire's Supreme Commander broadcast his message across all frequencies. "Primitives of Earth, your defiance ends today. Surrender now, or we will reduce your world to ash." In response, Porter simply pressed a button on his console. Around the moon, hidden doors began to open. The Empire's fleet moved forward in attack formation, their sensors showing Earth protected only by its previous defenses. They didn't detect the swarm until it was too late. Millions of tiny drones, each no bigger than a coffee cup, poured out of the lunar bases. They moved like a cloud of metallic insects, surrounding the Imperial ships before they could react. "What is this?" the Supreme Commander demanded. some primitive attempt at. His transmission cut off as the swarm went to work. The microscopic robots Reed had developed began eating through their shield generators. Across the Imperial fleet, defensive screens flickered and died. "Now, Captain Wilson," Porter ordered, "show them what Earth can really do." Earth's fleet emerged from its hiding spots in the asteroid belt. Their ships had been upgraded with everything they'd learned from the first battle. They struck hard and fast, their weapons finding every weak point in the Imperial designs. "Impossible." The Supreme Commander's voice crackled with rage. "All ships, open fire. Burn their world to cinders." But when the Imperial ships tried to fire their main weapons, nothing happened. Reed's team had infected their targeting systems through the quantum network. Their own computers were fighting against them. "This is your final warning," Porter broadcast to the Imperial fleet. "Withdraw now or face complete destruction." The Empire responded by launching fighters, thousands of them. They filled space like angry wasps, heading straight for Earth. Porter smiled. They had expected this too. "Activate the swarm's second phase," he ordered. The tiny drones suddenly transformed. What looked like simple sabotage robots combined into larger units. Within seconds, Earth had its own massive fighter screen ready to meet the Imperial attack. The battle that followed was like nothing humanity had ever seen. The sky lit up with explosions as ships fought across the entire solar system. But Earth wasn't fighting alone anymore. "Sir," Lieutenant Wells called out, "we're detecting multiple fleet signatures entering the system. It's the resistance forces from other worlds." Ships of all shapes and sizes dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The oppressed worlds that Earth had contacted had chosen their moment to strike. The Empire found itself caught between Earth's forces and the very worlds they had conquered. "All ships, execute final attack pattern," Wilson commanded. His fleet moved in perfect formation, their weapons targeting the weak points Reed had discovered. Imperial ships began exploding by the dozens. The Supreme Commander's flagship tried to retreat, but found itself surrounded by liberation forces from 3 different worlds. Its shields were gone, its weapons useless. "This is impossible." The Supreme Commander's final transmission echoed through space. "We are the Empire. We cannot be defeated by primitives." The explosion of his flagship lit up Earth's sky like a new star. Across the solar system, Imperial ships were either surrendering or being destroyed. The mighty armada that had come to punish Earth was being torn apart. In his command center, Porter watched as the battle turned into a rout. The Empire had brought their greatest fleet to crush Earth. Instead, they had given the resistance forces exactly what they needed, proof that the Empire could be beaten. "Send word to all Allied forces," Porter ordered. "Phase 3 begins now. It's time to take the fight to the Empire itself." Admiral Porter stood on the bridge of Earth's new flagship, looking out at the gathered fleet. Ships from 30 different worlds filled the space around Earth, their crews celebrating the victory over the Empire. It was time to make history. "Begin the broadcast," he ordered. "Make sure it reaches every world in Imperial space." Major Reed's team had prepared something special. They weren't just going to use the Empire's communication network. They were going to take it over completely. Every screen, every hologram, every communication device in Imperial space would carry Earth's message. President Marshall stepped forward to address the galaxy. Behind her stood representatives from all the worlds that had joined Earth's rebellion. Her voice was clear and strong as she spoke. "People of the galaxy, this is Earth speaking. For centuries, the Empire has ruled through fear and lies. They called themselves invincible. They claimed their technology was supreme. Today, we proved them wrong." The broadcast showed images from the battle. Earth's swarm destroying Imperial shields, freed worlds joining the fight, the Supreme Commander's flagship exploding. But more importantly, it showed how they had done it. "We are sharing this freely with every world under Imperial control," Marshall continued. "Complete technical data on their weaknesses, defense plans, shield frequencies, everything you need to fight back. The Empire is not invincible. They never were. Major Reed activated the second part of the transmission. Across Imperial space, resistance groups received detailed technical plans. The Empire's most closely guarded secrets were exposed for all to see. "But we offer more than just weapons," Marshall said. "We offer unity. Real unity, not submission. Earth and our allies are forming the Free Worlds Alliance. Any world that wishes to join us will receive our full protection and support." In his private chamber on the Imperial capital world, the Emperor watched in rage as his empire began to crumble. On 1,000 worlds, people were rising up. His perfect system of control was falling apart. "This is humanity's gift to the galaxy," Marshall's voice continued. "Not conquest, but freedom. Not submission, but cooperation. The Empire's time is over. The age of the free worlds begins today." Captain Wilson watched from his ship as more fleets arrived, not to fight, but to join them. The Empire's grip on nearby systems was already breaking. Industrial worlds stopped producing weapons. Trade worlds declared their independence. The Empire's own soldiers were laying down their arms. "The Empire called us primitives," Porter broadcast to the gathering fleet. "They thought our apparent weakness meant we were easy targets. Instead, they discovered something humanity learned long ago. Appearing weak when you are strong is the greatest advantage of all." In her lab aboard the flagship, Reed was already working with scientists from other worlds. Their combined knowledge was creating technologies the Empire had never dreamed of. But more importantly, they were sharing everything freely, ensuring no one could ever monopolize power again. The Emperor's response came swift and desperate. "Any world that rebels will be destroyed. Our remaining fleets will." His transmission cut off mid-sentence as Reed's team took control of the Imperial network permanently. In its place, they'd broadcast images of Earth's victory and technical specifications for anti-Imperial weapons. "Let the galaxy hear Earth's declaration," President Marshall announced in her final broadcast. "Our world is off-limits to empires. Our space is closed to tyrants. We will not submit. We will not surrender. And we will help every world that wants to be free." 3 months later, Porter stood in the new Alliance Council chamber, built in one of Earth's underground cities. Representatives from over 100 freed worlds sat together, planning their shared future. The Empire still existed, but it was shrinking daily as more worlds declared independence. "Not bad for a bunch of primitives," Reed said, joining him at the window. Porter smiled, watching ships from dozens of worlds moving peacefully through Earth's orbit. "We gave the galaxy something the Empire never could. A choice. And it turns out when you give people a real choice, they choose freedom every time." In the end, the Empire's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating Earth's technology. It was underestimating humanity's most powerful weapon, the ability to unite and inspire others to fight for their freedom.